Hello and welcome back to the Snakebite. It's our weekly sports show that airs every Tuesday at noon. I'm John Kristovich, joined today by James Simpson. Thank you for joining us here at FSC TV, and happy February to you all. James, let's get rolling. It was a winning week in Moccasin athletics.
That's right, John. Florida Southern swept their opponents this week in a pair of basketball doubleheaders, plus a dual swim meet this past weekend. Let's start with swimming, as the teams had a meet against the Florida Tech Panthers at the Nina B. Hollis Wellness Center on Friday afternoon. Coming into the weekend, both the men's and women's swim teams were ranked in the top 25, the men coming in at 8th in the nation, the women at 18th in all of Division II. Their opponent, the Panthers, were also ranked highly, the men at 26th, the women at 24th in the country.
And it wound up being a winning effort for both the men's and women's teams. The men won their meet by a score of 175-85, as did the women, who came to a 163-97 cruising victory of their own. Elder Oliveira, Ludovico Viberte, and Kyle McAuliffe each contributed 2 first-place finishes individually to lead their team, while Jazzy Hoffman and Lizzie Pelletier each notched a pair of wins themselves on the women's side. Now, the playoff structure for swimming is very unique in comparison to most NCAA sports, but first we'll look at the Sunshine State Conference Championships. They're going to be held the week of February 16th through 20th. Each swimmer from each SSC team will compete against each other, with the top swimmers at each event earning team points. The competition was not held last year due to COVID.
Yeah, and despite there not being a Sunshine State Conference Championship last year, there were NCAA championships, which are mostly dependent on individual swimmers' performances. Prior to the season, the NCAA will release an A standard and B standard qualifying times for every event. Now, swimmers only need to achieve a standard time once through the course of the season for NCAA qualification, so every single meet provides an opportunity for a swimmer to post a qualifying time. Attaining an A standard time is an automatic bid to the NCAA championships, while a B time puts you in contention to compete at the NCAAs. The better your B standard time, the better the odds of making the championships.
And that does make things really interesting, as every single meet matters. Both the men's and women's teams have already produced numerous B standard times for the NCAAs so far. Kyle McAuliffe holds the lone A standard swim so far, when he produced a time of 19:59 in the 50 free earlier this season. However, the men's team has 27 different B standard times so far by 10 different swimmers, so they will certainly push at least a few more through to the NCAAs. On the women's side, things are looking promising as well. They've got 5 different swimmers posting a total of 9 B standard qualifying times. As the season wraps up, we'll keep you posted on which swimmers you can expect to see competing for national glory in a month and a half. In the meantime, our other winter sport, basketball, will continue fierce competition here throughout the month of February.
Yeah, John, the Mocs continued their winning ways this week by posting 4 combined wins between the men's and women's squads. We'll start with last Wednesday, when the Mocs beat Florida Tech at home. The women's team had one of their best defensive showings of the year, holding the Panthers to just 39 points and cruising to a 17-point victory. In the second half of the night, the men's team held on for a 3-point victory after DeAndre Campbell knocked down a couple of free throws late in the game to put FSC ahead for good.
Yeah, James, DeAndre with 11 points that game. He's been one of the reliable scorers so far this year for the team, and it really is unreal how the offense is just so spread out. I mean, we look at this past Saturday's games, we saw E.J. D'Amberville post 23 points on 11 shot attempts to propel the Mocs to an 83-75 win over Palm Beach Atlantic, and after a pair of quick wins this week, they're right back in the conversation in the Sunshine State Conference, a conference record of 6-7 now. They're 6th in the lead and separating themselves from the bottom of the pack.
Yeah, and you look at that women's side, that team is now 4th in the conference and surging on a 3-game winning streak. After defeating Palm Beach Atlantic on the road this past weekend, the team moved to 9-4 in SSEC play, led by the sharp shooting from Whitney Jacob, Julia Jenneke, and Mackenzie Steele. They've got 7 games to go, twice a week, all throughout February. Next one up for both the men's and women's teams will be tomorrow night as they travel to Winter Park to take on the Rollins Tars. They played last year on New Year's Eve when the women's team massacred Rollins while the men were outplayed.
Yeah, well, the second half of a season is always a great opportunity for a team to rebound, learn from past mistakes, and really start to separate yourselves in the conference. And you look at the women's team, they're playing really good basketball right now, James, on a 3-game winning streak. Yes, even in their losses, they've played pretty well. That assist-turnover ratio is going up every single game. Mackenzie Steele is starting to get fired up, 25 points in the win on Saturday. Whitney Jacob and Julia Jenneke have continued to be an unreal combo, 1-2 punch. Should be fun to watch throughout this month of February. Well, and we caught up with a couple men's basketball players after their big win last Wednesday over Florida Tech.
Hey, great game out there. I thought you brought a great energy in the second half. What did Coach say to you in the locker room? How'd you get the guys fired up?
Oh, man, it was a long time coming, man. We needed a strong 20 minutes. Coach jumped us. We responded. That's all we can ask for. We got to respond when the bell rings. I'm just happy we came out and got this W.
Yeah, we felt it on there. You made 2 clutch free throws. What was going through your mind at that moment?
Just put them in. We put in work at practices. We shoot free throws. It's the same thing. Routine, knock them down.
Thank you so much. How does it feel to get this one back from Tech after dropping that one early in the season?
Feels great. You know, everyone right now through the conference is important. They beat us early, so right here we split, and then we can stay ahead of them in the standings. So it was for sure a big one.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a good night. And back to you, Jim.
All right, very good. Thank you very much.
Excuse me. We've got X.
Oh, let's get X.
X,
in here
great
as well.
game out there, man.
Thank you. We needed that dub. We played hard, played tough, and we got the big win.
Coach Donnelly told me, he said, I'm going to put 5 guys out there at the beginning of the second half that are going to play with intensity, and we felt it on the sidelines. How did that feel out there?
It's just, it felt great. You know, we needed people who's going to be competitive, who's going to be on the floor, giving energy, and just playing with confidence. That's all we needed.
Absolutely. And then you knocked those 2 free throws to go in the lead. How did that feel?
It felt great. I felt it felt good coming off my hands, and like I said, it's all confidence.
I love it!
And again, both the men's and women's squads will get rolling again tomorrow night at Rollins. We've got more sports to look at now with the spring season starting this week.
Right. Both lacrosse teams, the baseball teams, and softball team will all get started this weekend on the road. And let's start with baseball, as the team's got a 3-game series with the West Florida Argonauts on the road this weekend. West Florida finished with a 37-11 record last year and are ranked 10th in the country headed into the season. The Mocs, who went 15-11 last year, are currently receiving votes in the national poll after a couple of marquee wins in a limited season. The University of Tampa finished at 23-6 last year, 2 of those losses coming against Florida Southern. The baseball writers picked the Spartans as the best team in the country this season, and the Mocs won't get their first crack at Tampa until April 22nd, John.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting season, an exciting start to the season. Really no better way, I think. You look at all the exciting matchups. But how about let's kick off your season in 3 games with a top 10 team in the country in West Florida. Good stuff. Let's look at the softball team. They're traveling to St. Augustine this weekend to compete at the Flagler Tournament. They'll get the chance to compete against Georgia Southwestern State twice, plus Queens University and, of course, Flagler College. The first home game of the year for the team will be a doubleheader against Ursuline College on February 7th at Chris Pilato Field.
Yeah, now let's take a look at our lacrosse teams who each get their season underway this week. The men's team has a couple of big road trips to start this season. The first one is a non-conference bout with Anderson University this Friday before a matchup with Catawba College, both on the road. They get to come home for a day or two to take on conference rival Tampa, but will head back on the road to face Belmont Abbey, Limestone, and Flagler in succession to close out the away portion of their non-conference schedule.
Yeah, a long road ahead for the men's lacrosse team, and I mean that quite literally as they take a trip to the Carolinas. Let's look at the women's side, a team that a lot of analysts around the country are picking as one of the best teams in Division II. They have almost the exact kind of schedule from the men's team as they get 7 consecutive home games to start their season. The first one, of course, will be a week from today for the Mocs at home, and on the newly renamed Barron Field, they'll get to battle St. Leo for the first of 2 games this season. And James, in recent history, the Mocs have simply dominated the Lions. They are 10-0 lifetime against St. Leo.
Yeah, and we've got even more athletic events going on this week with the women's tennis team traveling to the University of Tampa, while the men's team takes on powerhouse Barry University at Miami Shores. Plus, next week, the men's golf team will host the annual Matlock Collegiate Classic, while the women's team heads to the World Golf Invitational in St. Augustine. We'll get you updates on all of these events and more next week.
And that brings us to our Week in Mocs History segment, and today we look at February 4th, 2009, the date of the first ever men's lacrosse game in Moccasin history. Played at Thomas Bryant Stadium in Lakeland, Florida. The team fought to a 7-6 overtime loss versus Hartwick College. At the time, the Mocs competed in the Deep South Conference before transferring to the SSC a couple years later. And James, since that day, the Mocs have gone 88-88. They'll get a chance to go over 500 coming up next week against Anderson University Friday night at 7 p.m. Until then, I'm John Kristovich with James Simpson. We'll see you next Tuesday at noon.